Yeah.
I said, and the same thing goes on in debates and ideas. All ideas are great. Not all ideas are truthful.
Oh, wow.
Verify these things.
Oh, good Lord. Ready?
Yep.
This is the meeting of the Township Committee, June 3rd, 2013. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press, the Star Ledger, the Independent, and the Tuber Times, and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk on January 11, 2013. Committeeman Fury.
Here.
Committeeman Massell.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Murray. Here. Committeeman Marino.
Here.
Mayor Sharples.
Here.
Please rise for the pledge, please.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our freedoms, constitutions, and way of life. Thank you. Our first item on tonight's agenda, we have a public hearing on Ordinance 2013-3090, an ordinance amending Ordinance 2012-3068, transformers, generators, fees.
Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3090? Seeing no members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move to adoption.
Committeeman Fury.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Marino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharples.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance 2013-3090 on second and final reading. Our next ordinance for public hearing, we have 2013-3091, an ordinance authorizing bond ordinance for capital improvements. I just need to do that. Bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $2,678,500 for various capital improvements by and for the Township of Middletown in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $2,354,575 in bonds or notes of the Township for financing part of the appropriation.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3091?
Just a clarifying question, I couldn't hear everything. Is this pertain to the capital improvement of the athletic fields, or is it something else?
No, this is just roads and other municipal public works projects.
Thank you very much.
That's it, Leo?
Yeah, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Anybody else care to speak to ordinance number 2013-3091? Seeing no further members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move to adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Fury.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Marino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharples.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance 2013-3091 on second and final reading. This time we have introduction of ordinance 2013-3092. Let me just read that. An ordinance repealing Chapter 110-1 of the Township Code relating to intoxication offense.
Okay, move for introduction.
Second.
Committeeman Fury.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Marino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharples.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance, motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held June 17, 2013. Our next ordinance for introduction, 2013-3093, an introduction of ordinance amending the code of the Township of Middletown regarding utilizing fees for recreation programs.
This is just for recreation programs. This is a recreation field permitting.
Yeah.
Just discussion.
This was a discussion item, but we've been getting a lot of inquiries about this, so I asked Heidi and Brian to get this ordinance ready so we could actually introduce it tonight and have a public hearing at the next meeting. But yes, this is just for program. People want to sign up for some of our activities. It would allow them to sign up. It's essentially a 20% increase of whatever the fee would be for somebody in town to use it. we've been getting a lot of inquiries about reserving tennis courts, number one, and number two, our summer camp program.
So the tennis courts would go on, well, there's a permit fee for tennis courts, right?
To reserve, yeah.
That
to
would
reserve.
not fall under this.
Yeah, this will allow people, if people want to reserve a tennis court, it would allow somebody from out of town to do that.
And your recommendation is 20%
Right.
for out of town?
20%
Increase.
Increase. So
the
if a
current-
normal resident's paying $10, so someone else is going to out of town is going to pay $12.
$2.40. Yeah, $2 more, yeah.
This doesn't deal with the athletic fields, baseball, soccer, or anything.
That's a permit, that's different.
permit.
That's reserving fields for permit. Yeah.
Just want to be clear.
Okay. Move for introduction.
Second. Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpler.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held June 17, 2013. At this time, I'd like to ask the Township Committee to adopt a consent agenda, which would include resolutions 13-150 through 13-163, and including an additional item, bingo and raffle applications number 88, 89, and 90.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino. Mayor Sharpler.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt the consent agenda. This time we have resolution 13-164, a resolution authorizing payment of bills for June 3rd, 2013.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpler.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 13-164. For June 17th's agenda, we have a certificate of appreciation award to the employee of the month for May 2013. We'll have minutes for May 6, 2013 and May 20th, 2013. We'll have public hearing on proposed ordinances, 2013-3088, an ordinance authorizing vacation of portion of Tutmont Drive, and 2013-3089, an ordinance authorizing amendments to Chapter 16 of the Planning Development Regulations, modifications and exceptions for non-conforming structures, and also the two ordinances that were introduced tonight. We'll have consent agenda with resolutions, bingo and raffles, and volunteer firefighter applications. And for tonight's discussion, we're going to be discussing the collection service for court fees.
Yeah, that item is regarding, we've had a number of inquiries from companies, and so there's some recent legislation that sets forth a process for the collection of delinquent court fees. Almost every municipality in New Jersey has substantial amounts of money that are delinquent fees. In our case, it's the amount is $726,000, of which the township would be entitled, assuming you got 100% paid, which would never happen, but $261,000.
Is that cumulative?
That's over,
Over
it
time.
could be over many, many years, you know.
I mean,
Yeah.
some of it may be,
Impossible.
impossible to collect.
Yeah.
and
But what's happening is that there was never really a process. Now there's legislation that allows for companies to essentially act as a debt collector, if you will. On behalf of
They get a
municipalities, they get
percentage of
22% or something.
Up to 20, they do up to 20%. So you can put out a bid, and say whoever takes the lowest cut would get the.
Do an RFP.
Is the remaining, let's say the remaining 80% is then split, obviously the state gets a portion of that, and then we get a portion of that. But those proportions stay the same, it's just 80% of those. Whatever that number is.
Yeah, pro rata share of that.
You know, the question is, do we want to go down this road and get into this? I did discuss it with the court administrator today. Apparently there are no towns in Monmouth County doing this presently. She seems to feel that the assignment judge is not a big fan of this program. But, you know, it's starting to accumulate to a significant amount of money. And you look at some of these other municipalities, there are some municipalities that are owed $8, $9, $10 million.
That's substantial dollars, and 80%.
The problem is that is very hard to collect. You'll find that a lot of these folks are in jail, incarcerated and so forth, and have no
Receiving
assets.
pensions.
So, it's not your run-of-the-mill debt, so a lot of it is, there are reasons why it's not being paid or extraordinarily difficult to collect. Which is why the percentage is authorized under the law for collection are relatively high.
But the percentage paid to the collection consultant is only paid upon our receipt of those funds.
Yeah, there's no cost.
So there's no annual retainer cost, it's directly attributable to the dollars received. So what's the downside to us to recover
Outside is people just getting hassled and, collection calls. They should have paid for it.
What would the judge rather see in a program like this?
I don't know. I mean, I certainly haven't had a conversation with him about it, and I guess there's some people who feel like this should, sort of should be handled within the municipalities and not bring outside people who are just getting a commission, essentially. But the reality is most municipalities don't have the ability to debt collect. They don't have staff to do that. Although, I will say that you probably will have a staff person who will have to work fairly closely with the company, to do this.
Or let's say they owe us $100, we can give them a 10 and put them on a cleanup detail and move the $100.
I don't think this statute.
Yeah, the consultant wouldn't be in favor of that one because he wouldn't get his cut. But anyway, if you'd like, we can look into this and prepare a draft RFP, and then that's what we have to do is go do an RFP. Companies out there are getting fairly aggressive.
Yeah, I just got another call today, actually.
Yeah, they're popping up because the legislation now made it clear.
I mean, how far does it go back retro?
I guess as far as you can realistically go back. I don't know exactly if there's a number of years, but there's no legal.
The 720 that you're referring to, is that going past?
It's a date.
Does it go back to, ends?
I guess that, it's all that we know of at this point that is open to us. So I don't know if there's as far back as they would keep records electronically, I would guess.
Problem is they're difficult to collect, but most of that money is smaller increments, so you're not gonna have people that owe $25,000 or something, this is like $100 here, $300 there, $500, there might be a couple that are a few $1,000, but there's no cost.
So how many there are though, to add up to 700?
Yeah.
But there's no exposure to the municipality, there's no downside, there's no annual retainer.
No, there's no cost. This is purely.
They feel that.
And I'll tell you, the last time I got
a
this,
risk.
the last time I got the total, which was just a little over a year ago from the court, it was actually in 2011, a year and a half ago. It was about $100,000 less than this. So just for that past time, it was gone up $100,000.
That's substantive.
When is it supposed to be paid? I mean, at the day of the court date?
Well, some people set up payment, if someone gets a big fine, sometimes the court will often let them do a payment schedule, so they come in every week and pay, $50 or whatever, but then sometimes it just stops. And they don't have the ability to go chase somebody down.
So $100,000 outstanding fines in an annual from last year.
It's about a year and a half, I'd say.
So our 2% tax levy cap is 900.
Or you keep in mind, we're not getting.
You're not going to get all of it.
My point is, as an uncollected revenue, as a percentage of what we're looking at in cap, it's.
But about 20% is our share, and then if they.
About 30%.
About 30% is our share of that.
261,000 if you got everything, and you're not going to get that. But like you said, there really isn't a downside other than just, maybe some annoyed people.
Yeah.
All right, we'll draft up an RFP and get that to you.
We have Township Committee comments. That one turned into 2013
So the discussion item was.
Just want to comment on last week's Memorial Day Parade. It was, in the years I've been doing it, it was just a beautiful day, and I think it was the biggest turnout I've ever seen. It's an honor of fallen soldiers. It was just a very special day. I was proud to be there.
Thank you. A few comments tonight. One is, obviously, if anyone saw the news today, Senator Lautenberg's passing was pretty prevalent, so I just wish to send my condolences on behalf of the township and myself had the opportunity and the pleasure of meeting him over the Hurricane Sandy at the FEMA headquarters there, and you know, it's a sad situation anytime a long-standing representative of either party passes away. So I just want to send my condolences there, and just recognize Senator Walkenberg for his service to the state of New Jersey. Also, you know, I'm just going to make one comment. There is been a lot going on, and I've read the press recently about an issue that I'm hearing a lot of rumors and being questioned by a lot of people and reporters and things. And there's a lot I can't say, but there's, you know, certain things I can say. Serving as mayor last year during the superstorm, spending pretty much every day in that seat right over at the end of the table. I can't tell you who or if somebody had a generator or township piece of equipment during that time, because that's not for me to investigate or to look into. The only thing I can tell anyone that I will want to make clear and unequivocally clear is that no township employee, regardless of stature, regardless of their position, had any authority by me or the township administration to take any type of equipment during that storm. So I just want to be clear that a lot of people are asking if I gave permission for anything. And again, I'm not saying that anybody did have anything, but I'm saying that no one had my permission or the township's permission. So I just want to clarify that point to end that rumor.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Murray.
I have nothing to say, thank
No.
you, Mayor. No, I think
Okay.
everybody's covered.
All right, I'm going to be the ball hog. I have
Go
a
for
couple
it.
of things here. Actually, I've been extremely busy the last couple of weeks, mostly with going to Eagle Scout ceremonies. We have a bumper crop this year, and I don't know what it is about the Middletown troops, but they are churning out Eagle Scouts like Heinz churns out pickles. It's unbelievable, and it's really good to see. And some of them had, you know, one had 3 young men, another 2, and another one 2. And the projects are fantastic, and these kids, when you see what they've done, because a few have asked me to write them letters of recommendation, and their academic and their civic contributions are more numerous than many adults, so it's really a good thing to see, and they deserve a lot of credit. Sort of related to that, too, was a rededication for the Harmony Burial Ground. And I know, Suzanne, you wrote the article, right? Great article. About the rededication of a historic cemetery right next to the King of Kings Lutheran Church. I want to get it right. And it's actually a historic cemetery that way predates the church there. The first burial was 1835, and the last one was 1891. And it was exciting for me because I spent the better part of my academic career with my head in historic graves. So it was really like coming home for me. And it was a great dedication, great congregation, and really the Eagle Scout who cleaned it up did a phenomenal job. It was like the Amazon before he got to it, and now it's like a manicured work of art. So really it was a great project, and hopefully it'll stay that way for a while. That's the problem with these cemetery cleanups. It's sort of ephemeral, and they become overtaken. So really a great job there. I also went to the Fairview Civic Association meeting. They asked me to come in and speak, and it's a great group led by Tracy Lewis, who is very energetic and very eager to do good things in her neighborhood. So it's always good to see these civic groups. The next night, I also went to the Hartshorn Woods Association meeting. It was a packed house. A lot of good comments. I actually like these type of meetings because you get to see folks you don't usually see, no offense to the regulars here, but you get to see people that you don't see all the time, and sometimes hear about issues that you don't ordinarily hear. So it's always beneficial to go with a couple of others that I have lined up to do, so I'm really looking forward to them. They're always a lot of fun and always a good time. And I want to say something about recycling, and I've been going to the recycling center quite a bit because I've had a deluge of recycling. Ted, I can't say enough good about the people who work at the recycling center. They are polite, they are eager to help, they are efficient, and you see it with all the cars that come in. So, and a lot of them don't even, especially know who I am. So I'm just another Joe, and they come running up, and they can't be more helpful. So they deserve a big pat on the back. And, I'm sure they'll hear about it if something doesn't go wrong. So they should hear about it when it does. And they are really great credit to the township and to your staff. So it was a job well done. And the Memorial Day Parade, as Committeeman Marcel said, it was a banner day. Picture perfect weather. We've had days where it's been rainy and cold and sweltering hot. This was somewhere right in between. And the turnout, sort of reflected the nice day with, people 5 and 6 deep along the curb. So it was good to see that, and I think the veterans got a kick out of it too, to see the interest and the enthusiasm there. So with that, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have public comments.
Okay, and just so everybody's aware, please keep your comments to 5 minutes. It will be strictly enforced. We will all be happy to stay afterwards if you have more questions or you want to go beyond 5 minutes, but out of respect for everybody else, we ask that you keep your comments to 5 minutes and then turn the floor over. And please be sure to give your name and address. Okay? So with that, let's start the minute. Seeing no further. Oh, I have a quick hook there. Yeah.
Go on, Linda, you're up. You're voting to get up.
Okay,
That's a reason.
Just a quick question. On May 6th, I'm sorry, Lynch Bound, 19 May Court. On May 6th, there was a hearing on the budgets, but there was no vote that night, and as far as I know, there's been no vote. What is causing the delay? What are we waiting for?
The primary issue was that we had land that was being sold and that money was going to be put into the budget, and the auction is not happening until June 13th. So we don't have a date for the actual budget adoption. It'll be sometime after June 13th.
I guess it's great. Go ahead.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Boston Canada, 70 Whitman Drive. Hi, Steve. I'm glad the Scouts got a little action today, right? As a fellow Eagle Scout. I appreciate it, Jerry. What I asked, my committee, I have 400 now, volunteers who support Shadow Lake. They asked a question, and I'm asking you. They want to know what the extra taxes that are paid by the 46 residents around the lake, where it goes to. So I did a little investigation. I found out that the guy behind me, who lives on the other side of the street, not on the lake, bigger house, bigger property, he pays $7,082 taxes. I'm across them, but I'm on the lake. I pay $11,600, which is a.
Can I ask you a question? When you say extra taxes, you mean the higher
Over and
assessments?
above, yeah. I'm gonna give you. I'm giving you the numbers here. He pays $7,000 a year. I pay $11,600 a year to be on the lake, which is a $4,500 difference. Multiply that by the 46 houses on the lake, approximately. The township gets $288 more in taxes because we're on the lake.
That's total nonsense.
It may be nonsense, but it's a
They
fact.
own the same
Well,
size
it's
house.
not a fact if it's nonsense.
Tell me,
ridiculous.
Anthony.
You can't just say that just because someone pays more in taxes than you, it's all because you live on the lake. There could be many other factors that factor into the value of a house.
Anthony. All things. I got a
Well, I don't
small
know.
house.
I don't know what all things are equal. I don't know what's inside that person's house. I don't know what's on their property.
Could
You
be
don't either.
$4,000 per year difference, $4,500 per
Square
year.
footage.
File a tax appeal.
No,
Get your
he's got a
interest.
bigger house. He's got more property.
Then file a
If
tax
my
appeal
house
and
was
get your
not on the
answer.
lake, I wouldn't be paying $11,600.
Well, there's a formula that they follow.
I know there
for
is.
these assessments. So this is not just a whim or some arbitrary number.
I know. But the grouper is asking me, where does the money go? Should there be a trust for the lake, the lake people? Because they see that
Well,
that-
people live on Navesink River, Austin,
Yeah.
and they pay
They're
higher
more money, I'm
taxes
sure.
and,
$100,000 a
that's
year.
because
I'm
they're
sure
on
they
the
pay.
river. But, ultimately, every property is different. Every property in my development is different. They're different sizes. I mean, it's hard for you to arbitrarily ask the committee what the difference is. His property could be smaller than yours by 50 feet. I don't know what the sizes are. I mean,
You're
there's a
absolutely
lot
right,
of
Anthony,
variables here.
but the fact is, people on water pay more than not. So I'm really getting to the hydro raking, if I can, get there. A few years, I know we tried to get dredging, and the bids were high, and I can understand. My next question is, I'm on the east end of the lake. I think the hydro raking is going to be, at best, restricted to the west end of the lake. And I can show you pictures of my silt and this is all from, again, the pictures are so bad. I swim in the lake. Now I can't, I'm at a point now where the water chestnuts are killing me. I got scars to show it. The lake is dying. I hate to say it, but when I moved in 7 years ago, it was 11 feet from my dock. Now it's 7 feet. It's getting less and less in the vegetation because it's a shallower lake. You're getting more vegetation, and unless somebody wakes up to, the jewel is going to be dead. And it is a jewel. We all agree that the lake is a beautiful jewel. And the 46 houses do not include the village, by the way. So there is, say it or not, living on the lake generates more taxes for the township. I will tell my committee, what? What do I tell them? Where does the money go, that extra money?
Just a couple things. I mean, the fact that you're paying higher taxes because you're on the lake has no, that money isn't, I mean, that goes to the same thing.
I know, it goes in the pot.
No, it goes to the, so you can't say that money, you live on the,
well, don't you think a portion of it, Steve, should be put aside for the preservation of the lake?
You can't legally do that. The state laws dictate, one, how properties are assessed, two, how that money is disposed of. You can't set
how
up...
it's disposed of?
How it's disposed
don't the township decide?
No, the township only decides 23% of that, and of that 23%, maybe 5% of that's discretionary, if that, and that's the money where the township has to make the decision. That's when the township went out to bid, get the bids. It came in far over anyone's estimate.
Well, just like anybody who lives near something of value. So people who live near a golf course, if the golf course decides to close, that's just what happens. So you don't get a break because that happens. I mean, you choose to live near a golf course, and you get the advantage of that because maybe it adds value to your property when it's a golf course for people who like to live near a golf course. So you get an advantage because when you sell your property, you're going to get more than the person who doesn't live next to the golf course. And so conversely, you're going to pay more in taxes for that.
Yeah, but also, Anthony, when the golf course closes or the lake dies, now you're living on a dead lake, and I've lived on that.
If it didn't happen, then your value will go down. You pay less in taxes.
To that point, I mean,
we haven't gotten to that yet.
The committee is going out. Obviously, you answered half the question, right? So the committee cannot afford to do the dredging. It well exceeds because of these DEP standards, right? So the committee's going to go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars on hydro-raking. The committee's going to go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars on chemicals and other things to try to alleviate some of the situation. There were people who wrote letters from Belford who shall remain nameless, and Mr. Gabriellen is one who doesn't live in Belford, I can remember, blasting this committee for putting any money into that lake because he didn't live on the lake. So it's a really difficult situation to try to say that any portion of a property belongs to, you need to dedicate. That's why legally you can't. But, the committee is doing its best to...
And just so you're aware, too, it's not, we haven't foreclosed the issue. We had a meeting last week with someone from the DEP who was here, and we have a meeting Thursday this week in Trenton with the DEP to discuss Shadow Lake.
This Thursday?
Yeah, so we're still trying to come up with a solution for the lake. We understand it's important, and we're trying to get some more alternatives on the table.
Well, so we're going to have to move on because it's up to the 5 minutes. If you want to stay after, we can give you a little bit of an update on what's been happening in the interim. We have a few ideas on what we can do to, sort of mitigate some of the problems there. It won't may not be the whole shebang right away.
Will it consider the east end of the lake too? The hydro-raking is for 58,000. It's not hundreds of thousands.
Right.
58,000. Could the hydro-raking can go the whole lake, not just
consider the whole
just the entrance end?
We'll look at the whole lake and make a decision then.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else care to speak?
Flip coin.
You slowed the draw there.
Flip coin. I just want to comment on the
Name and address.
Don Watson, 1 Collinson Drive. Make a little comment about the recycling guys that work over there. They do a great job, and that should be in their review when they're evaluated every year. I didn't even have to get out of my car the other day. I told the weed whackers in the back, he says, well, thank God you didn't bring another lawnmower. But they opened the door, took the thing out, and got rid of it for me. I didn't even have to get out of the car. So I hope you do put that in their employee evaluation, their annual evaluation. There was a resolution tonight about the corrective action plan for the audit, 2011 audit. In the first paragraph, it states that it's pertaining to the 2010 report of audit. And then in the second paragraph, it's referring that we did an audit for 2011. Could you clarify this? It's a 2011 audit, so this is a misprint or inaccuracy in the resolution that was put together. Also, the turf field we're building at the Thompson School, is it? Are we building a turf field at Thompson? We're building it at Nut Swamp now? Because the ordinance we passed last meeting was for Thompson School. Is that going to be reintroduced and voted on to correct that?
Well, it was really just to finance it. I mean, it talked about the
It specifically said Thompson School, though.
Right.
Right.
Well, I don't know that we need to amend the ordinance for that, but if we do, we certainly we could do that. But that was where it was planned, but because of environmental issues, we decided that that's one was a better location.
Not just environmental, just also the fact that that was a harder place to physically monitor.
Yeah.
Okay, because when we did our $400,000 recreation master plan, it rated Thompson School higher than Nut Swamp School, considerably higher.
You have to keep in mind with regard to master plans, there are drilled down levels of items that you don't get to until you start to do, soils analysis or things when you locate something at a specific site. So
they also stated that the Nut Swamp School lacked parking, and there was no room for it. Those were some of the comments in the master plan.
Right, so that's really resolved by the fact that where the field would be located is adjacent to Normandy Park, and there'll be a stairway connecting Normandy Park, so the parking will be available there too.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out because we spent all this money doing a plan, and it's not being followed.
Well, I think, Don, to that point, I think, when you go out for a plan and you get resident participation, I, as a resident, would never have thought, and I was a big proponent of Thompson, but I would never have thought that the location being in the back there would be harder to keep vandalism from happening, whereas Nut Swamp is a little bit more open and closer to the street and not hidden and tucked away. So sometimes as you're doing that investigative work, it makes sense to to make changes. We've had vandalism at Lincroft Acres that has destroyed the field how many times now? We've had vandalism at Fairview Acres.
Although it's not like you're putting the field in a different location.
You're just across the street.
Basically.
Right, and there was a football field already at Thompson. No, all you had to do is put turf on. It was already level and ready to go. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Leo Christophely, 121 Cranberry, that's Shady Oaks. Real quickly on Shadow Lake, I've discussed this matter before. First of all, you can restore, drain the lake and restore it to its pristine natural form, which the lake's apparently trying to do. Regarding the taxes and the costs, I found that through Oprah requests that a lot of the land under the water is owned by the property owners whose land abuts the water. So I asked that a lien be put on these properties and that they be charged for their ownership of the land under the water, that they be charged for the cost of dredging that land, and nothing came of it. I really wanted to know how much the land under the water is owned by property owners, and I would like to see liens put on those property owners. If the lake were a jewel, I'd steal it, and no one would know it. That's what I have to
they
say.
can't.
No one would know.
That's just, analogies don't help us, it's this stuff, we're talking about people's cash. I'll drop that. There's a letter in the Independent written by Howard Meyer, President, New Jersey State First Aid Council Summit. There's a lot of good statistics in it, but he gets down to the bottom line. There's a history of lying about EMS, which is what the letter's about. According to the author of this letter in the Independent, May 23rd, 2013 is the date. He says that New Jerseyans are saved, and their insurance companies, more than $227 million in New Jersey. I would think that every municipality in New Jersey, and I would recommend this one do it, I did it when I lived in Tinton Falls, go out and see how many people in Middletown are volunteering for EMS. They get some money called LOSOP, and that's it. I think the maximum, if they benefit, not counting the benefits they can get if they work it, but short of retirement benefits, they can get something like credit and cash, about $5,500. Some of it's tuition at Brookdale.
$1,100 per year is the max you can cap out at. $1,150 per year, I believe, is the max you can cap out.
But totally over.
$1,150 for LOSAP is the max you can cap out, I think, per our word, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm a pretty good expert on that one, I promise.
You're the second expert I've gotten information on that, just so letting you know. But at any rate, the thing that I'm proposing here, which I proposed in Tinton Falls, was you have a large number of people volunteering for EMS, and it's a very important enterprise and contribution to the community, big time. The fire department's the same way. They may have a stash of money that we don't know the amount of, because I don't think it's part of public record. When I get requests for money, I give to those two entities. If we are supporting them through contributions as private citizens, volunteering, not responding to taxes, but volunteering to contribute, then it would seem to me that this kind of information should be gotten out. How much would it cost the taxpayers if all our fire department people and all of our EMS people were paid employees in public sector unions, which I don't particularly care for.
$8 to $9 million. Leo, we're going to have to push up on 5.
Could something be done in getting out some information on this?
So just so I'm clear, are you advocating for us to provide more benefits for volunteerism or less benefits for volunteerism?
No, what I'm after is, I don't know why my legislators want to spend what's tantamount to $227 million to pay for EMS only.
Stay after the meeting and I'll tell you why. I got a good theory.
Well, I would like the newspapers writers to be in on this, so can't you tell us now? Or, if the presider would permit it?
Your 5 minutes is up, and my answer would be, clearly there's a union presence that is pushing the paid EMS.
And the legislatures have obviously responded, because this took a veto of the governor to defeat it. One man, and of course they can try to reverse that veto.
Another credit to our governor for keeping the same line with the pen in his hand. Anyway, thank you, Leo. Would anybody else care to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Donna Combs, 10 Leonard Avenue, Leonardo. I had a question. I noticed that the planning board is going to be reviewing the Chapter 16 on Wednesday evening. How come Middletown Township didn't incorporate a repetitive flood loss provision in their floodplain management ordinance?
For what purpose? I mean,
To help those people get with mitigation efforts.
It's not really anything we've considered. We've never had a heck of a lot of repetitive loss properties. Repetitive loss properties are still monitored by National Flood Insurance. So having them in our ordinance doesn't really make a difference. So I mean, if you're a repetitive loss property, that's still kept track of by FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program. So there's no additional benefit to being placed in our ordinance.
A representative from FEMA told me it would be more beneficial if it was incorporated into the ordinance.
In what way?
As far as mitigation efforts to the individual homeowners.
Not that I know of. You know, I'm happy to talk to them if you want to have them give me a call, but I'm not aware that there's any benefit to being in a municipal ordinance as a repetitive loss property. Because it's a national flood insurance issue. The township's not in the insurance business, so whether you're a repetitive loss or not, it's an insurance issue and a funding issue, not a township issue. I don't see where there would be any benefit to having addressed repetitive loss in our ordinance.
Donna, keep in mind, when you speak to these FEMA folks, they're from all over the country. They may be used to a land use system in a different part of the country that doesn't apply here. I've spoken to several of them and gotten different answers on different issues. You know, because you get somebody from Alabama
You get different answers from everybody you talk to.
Right, but they may be speaking from a mindset that's outside of the New Jersey land use law system or, you know, system of of insurance, whatever it may be. But sometimes they're well-meaning, but it's not always accurate or applicable to what we do here or what we can do here.
I do recall years back, though, seeing something in the various different grant programs for funding for flooding relief, that if there was a repetitive loss provision in the municipality's ordinance, that then FEMA would be more apt to step in and help.
I think they're actually going in a different, my conversations, Donna, they're going in a different direction here, whereas if you're a repetitive loss, they're going to at some point pay you out and then say you cannot be insured any longer. I think that's the direction they seem to be going, where they're looking at these repetitive properties and saying we're not going to pay again. And I actually just met with, through the Bayshore Conference of Mayors from lower Mississippi, Gulfport, and the surrounding area who went through Katrina, and basically one of the lessons they told us is that the repetitive loss was basically a way for them to say we're just not covering you anymore and you'll get no more money from us if you flood again. So it's I think they're actually trying to work it in a different angle to not pay out claims if you have repetitive loss.
Yeah, the only potential benefit to being for the town to recognize repetitive loss properties would be for mitigation and for community rating service, community rating system credits. And the only way that would be beneficial to the town would be that it would be one of the myriad of points you can get for your community rating for flood insurance calculations. But the downside to that is that you would have to put something in your ordinance that said, for example, if you're a repetitive loss property, the next time you have a loss, we're buying your property, you know, and now the homeowner is going to be forced to sell their property because they're not going to be covered. And that's not, we've found very, very few people, there are a few, but very few people who actually want their properties bought.
I think
There's a few, but most do not. Most want to be back in their house, they want to keep their property, they don't want us buying their properties.
Okay, in that regard, do you have a number of how many people have made that request?
I can tell you that I've probably spoken to maybe 3 or 4. That's about it.
And is the township going to help some of these property owners to that end?
Buy their properties?
Through whatever processes to get to that end.
Well, that's the only process, is to buy their property. I mean, what else would there be?
Well, Blue Acres, it
That's
wouldn't
buying
be the
their property.
township buying the property, it would be
No.
the state buying it.
No, it would be the township owning it, though. The problem with the acquisition process is that no matter where the money comes from, the township winds up owning the property. And the township winds up having to maintain the property forever and ever. Because especially with the Blue Acres program, because you're not allowed to use the property for any other purpose.
Right.
So we've not foreclosed the idea of some property acquisition. It's possible. But until we get some idea of where the hazard mitigation monies are going to be prioritized, we don't know that. But it's possible, but I'd say it's unlikely, given that very few people seem even interested in it.
Okay,
Okay.
Tony, we can
I
continue.
just
to-
have one more quick question.
We're way over the 5 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else care to speak? Seeing no further members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move for adjournment.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sal.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hart. Committeeman Sedamino. Mayor Schauberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to adjourn.